now receiving between permanent and temporary residents over 30,000 Filipinos each year. Maybe Ambassador, I don't know if your government likes that. Our government certainly does. And we know that it does help as well in the Philippines with the hard work that Canadians from Philippines do in helping their families back home through remittances, but also helping our prosperity and our growth here in Canada. And you know, one of the reasons why Philippines has become the major country of new Canadians is because of the Live-in Caregiver Program. And there are in this room women who represent the compassion, the care, the sense of giving that is represented in Filipino culture, and that so many Canadian families have come to depend upon through the Caregiver Program. Because Canada has an aging society. You know, this is a program that started out mainly helping very busy families cope dealing with children. But increasingly, it's an elder care program. It's a program that will help in the future as Canadians in an aging society with special needs, often people who are disabled or handicapped in various ways, or people who are elderly and infirm and can't leave home, need that home care presence, that compassionate presence. And I predict that this program will be a growing and important part of our immigration system in Canada in the future. Now you, ladies and gentlemen, you know like I do, that caregivers, particularly from Philippines, work hard all around the world, in Asia, in the Gulf States, in the Middle East, in Europe, and in Canada. But you know what's unique about Canada is we don't just say to the caregivers, come here, stay for 2 or 3 years, help with your families back home through remittances, and then we say goodbye. We are the only country in the world that I know of that gives an opportunity for permanent residency, for family sponsorship, and for citizenship. We say to the caregivers that we honor and respect your hard work, that we honor and respect your hard work so much that after your period as a caregiver, we invite you to stay and join us as part of our Canadian family. And I want to say on behalf of the tens of thousands of Canadian families who have benefited from the hard work of caregivers, thank you, because you are doing work that is essential in so many families to help them take care of their loved ones, and you're building the future of Canada. And when you're done that period and have the permanent residency and are able to bring in your family members, you then go on to build brighter futures for your families here in Canada. And we all benefit from that. And we can never say thank you enough. I remember that my friend, when we made our announcement in December, I was given a beautiful reminder of the dignity of the caregivers, a pearl representing the Pearl of Asia by Reverend Julius Kingsong from the Newcomer Resource Center over in Mississauga. And that's sitting on my desk. And every single day when I look at that beautiful little pearl, I remember people like Cressy, people like Hon.Pc, people like so many of you who have made hard sacrifices to make a better future for your families. And I want you to know that our government believes that we need to ensure that you and your rights are protected, that your dignity is protected in Canadian law. Because we all know too many, while the experience of most caregivers is a good one, sometimes a difficult one, but while most caregivers are with good families and they have the chance of permanent residency, we also know the tragic stories. We also know about the bad situations, about abusive employers, about employers that don't respect the basic working rights of caregivers, about women like Hon.Pc who became sick in Canada and who were then not allowed to sponsor their families or stay here in dignity for the balance of their lives. We know the stories about women who had to leave their employers and then lost status and ultimately couldn't reach permanent residency because of it. We know the stories about women who are forced to work 7 days a week or 80 hours a week, or who were told to go on vacations for months to the United States, and where they lost status towards their permanent residency. We know about women who have shown up at the airports only to find out that their jobs that they had been told were ready for them were no longer there, and they were then told they had to go back to Philippines. We know about these stories, that they are real stories, and I want to say to all of those women who have gone through those kinds of unfair or unjust or abusive situations, that we empathize with your experience, and it's because of your experiences, it's because women like Hon.Pc had the courage to tell their stories that the Government of Canada listened. You know, this program has existed in one way or another for many years. It started in the 1950s as a domestic Live-in Caregivers Program with many women from the Caribbean, and it's taken different shape over the years. But never before has the government said that we are going to put very clearly the rights of the caregivers first and foremost in the program, and we are going to make it absolutely clear to employers and to agents and to everyone involved that they have an obligation, a serious legal obligation, that will be monitored and enforced to respect the basic rights of the caregivers, and we are now putting that into the law. And so I was I know June said there was that long period when we were doing consultations and people wondered what was going on. Friends, this was a really, really hard, difficult, complicated issue to address, because we wanted to make sure, like there are some people out there who want us to shut down the Live-in Caregiver Program. They dress it up in all sorts of political language, but there are some people who basically are opposed to the program. And I, with respect, think that they are wrong, because this is a program that gives an opportunity for immigration to Canada, for permanent residency, ultimately for citizenship and reunification with families that would not exist for many, many people who would otherwise not qualify for instance, the point system for immigration to Canada. And I know that there are many caregivers in Hong Kong, in the Gulf states, in other parts of the world, who dream about coming to Canada as a caregiver, because that gives them the hope of resettling in this prosperous country permanently. And I want to keep that opportunity available to those hardworking women from around the world. And I also recognize that there are needs that in Canada for care of families that need to be met. And so I don't agree with those who said that we should essentially take measures that would shut down the program. I think they're well-intentioned, but I think they're terribly mistaken. And let me say, that was the balance we needed to strike. We needed a balance that would clearly, firmly protect the rights of the caregivers, that would not penalize them for becoming sick in Canada, for example, that would not load all sorts of costs on them for medical insurance and consultants' fees and travel. But we also wanted to do it in a way that it didn't overly penalize the honest employers who provide this opportunity for work and for permanent residency in Canada. So we really, that's why we had the consultations. We were trying very hard to figure out what was the right balance. And I think we hit the right balance, because I think we did the right thing. Now there are some people, some of the consultants, some of the recruiters are criticizing me. They're saying, Mr. Kenny, you went too far. You're now going to force the employers to pay for the consultants' fees, to pay for the travel of caregivers to Canada, and that's going to make it too expensive for the employers. I believe that if families really need the help, they'll be prepared to make the investment to bring in people of such strength and ability. And I don't think, and the law will no longer allow, as a result of the changes that we are making, that women should have to pay for the privilege of coming to Canada to work. They're willing to offer their hard work, their dedication, and their skills, and we honor that, and they shouldn't be forced to pay consultants' fees, and that will end when these regulations come into effect in the first week of April.